What's the deal, everyone? Welcome back to the studio. I'm Jeremy Deal, and today we're going to be covering a wide gambit of things, including these questions from you all. Now, number one, let's get into the next video that's actually coming out on my channel. It's going to be kind of like a gear review, for lack of a better term. It's going to be the X4 Peter McKinnon edition. I'll be talking about this over the X4 and all the things that come specifically with this really cool box. So make sure to stay tuned for that if you're interested. I'm also working on the videos I covered last week still. So if there's anything you want added to those, just say so. As always, comment down below with any questions, because questions will now be covered through these videos from now on, because they don't get a lot of traction on my YouTube channel, but I've already gotten so many specific emails from you all that's saying how helpful they were. So we'll continue on with this. From Video Tours by Andrew. They basically want to know how to get quicker on site. They do photos, videos, and drone, just like I do. And for those of you who don't, it does take a lot of time. First of all, you've got to do photos. So that's one round of house. Then you've got to do a wide video, which is another round of house. Then you've got to do a macro or vignette style, or whatever your tight crop is going to be. That's going to be another round of house. Then if you do vertical videos, that's going to be another round of house. So that's 4 rounds you've got to go around this house in order, preferably in order to keep all of these things in line for when it comes to post-production. And that doesn't even include the drone stuff, because that's really going to be 2 passes, because you've got to do all your photos, then you got to do all your photos, and nope, that's not a real word. You got to do all your photos, then you got to do all your video, and then you got to do all your specialty shots, right? So realistically speaking, you're looking 4 to 5 passes around this entire property. And I understand what you mean. This can be quite troublesome, and it does take some time. And the only thing I can say really to reduce your time is to tell people they can't be there. Honestly, the best thing, the way I get quicker and quicker is when no one is there. If I've got to worry about someone working in their office, then I've got to worry about interrupting them 5 times, or I've got to sit there and get all 5 of those different shots for that room, one after another, and that is a huge pain. It takes so much more time to do so. So the way I save time on site is, number one, I ask everyone to leave but the agent. No homeowners, no dogs. When I'm doing photos, it's a little bit easier, but once I include video, it becomes more of a stern rule to not allow anyone else there. Makes it easier. Hold on, let me adjust this. It looks a little wonky. There we go. All right. So number one, make sure no one's there. I do my first pass, I do all of my photos. While I'm doing my photos, I'm really thinking about how I'm gonna lay out my video. So once I'm done with my photos, I stick on my wide angle lens, usually the Laowa 12 mil, and then I do a complete run around the property. I do all my little slow mock slider shots for every single room. Then I'll go through and do any specialty shots I want to do with that wide angle lens, like any walkthrough shots or room to room transitions that I've talked about before. Then I'm going to switch from that lens to my tight lens. I'm using the 50 Sony on my APS-C, so that way it crops into like an 80 or whatever that crop ratio is, so it's really tight. Now, luckily for this pass, I'm not hitting every single room. I've noticed all of my hit points on my first 2 rounds. I know I'm going in there and getting a shot of the glass shower if they have one. I know the shots I'm doing around the kitchen, depending on the appliances they have. I know I'm getting some of their fixtures if they're nice. So that's what I'm paying attention to. And just like before, I'm gonna be trying to make the same round the house. I'm gonna be trying to start at the entranceway and go in a clockwise manner around the first floor, then same on the second floor. Then I do the same thing for the video, same thing for the macro, except for I'm usually not including any of those secondary or tertiary bedrooms unless they are like really nice or have really nice accents. That's the only time I include them in that macro round. Then lastly is gonna be my vertical round before I head outside. Now, vertical rounds can be tricky because they're a little bit harder to note in advance because of their layout. Maybe that's just me. I'm harder at laying out vertical video than I am horizontal video, probably because I just have so much less experience with it. Either way, I digress. That's what takes me the longest, but I don't sell a lot of those. I sell more traditional style videos than social media style videos. So then once I'm done with that, time to head outside. Then I do, well, actually, when I'm doing the wide angle lens interior, I also do exterior at that time before I switch over lenses, because switching lenses is the most time consuming part of everything. Balancing gimbals is time consuming. So the least amount of times you have to change out and rebalance your gimbal or change lenses, that's gonna save you a lot of time. Also, honestly, just experience. I know that it sucks to hear that, but experience with your camera, the more you get used to the settings and the buttons on your camera without having to look at them, without having to think about them, you just naturally know what to tweak and what you're looking for. The more you work with your camera, you'll get really used to its exposure values that you can see at the bottom. Like I know personally, when it comes to my A7 IV, whenever I'm shooting my HDR bracketed images, I cannot start at a 0 exposure or I'll have too many shadowed images and my grain will be too high. I always have to set my camera to a +7 or a +1 exposure rating when I'm doing my multi-exposures, because that's the only way I'm getting clean, grain-free shadows. Just something to think about. And that's something I've only learned with time because I've been using this camera for so long. So the other part of that is unfortunately just time. The more time you have, the more you can kind of build a routine for yourself. That's another thing that helps me. I really have a routine. Like I said, I know exactly how I'm shooting. When I'm shooting the first time, I know what I'm looking out for my second run. Once I do my second run, I know what I'm looking out for my macro shots. Once I've done my macro shots, all that's left is the drone. And typically, you know, the drone is here or there. I do way more video shots than I ever use. I usually only end up using about 1, maybe 2 drones in the beginning and 1 at the end to kind of end with the agent's information up on screen. So that was a long breakdown of a very simple question. How do you get quicker? Build processes for yourself. I just told you mine. That's my process of working around the house, reduce the amount of bodies in the house, and of course, get more acquainted with the gear you use and easier at swapping those things. I've talked about it before. I actually carry 2 gimbals with me. I use the RSC3 Pro for my traditional videos, and I use the Crane 4E for my vertical videos, so that way I don't have to rebalance anything. I keep those things balanced for the lenses I put on them, so that way it's just a quick swap. Yes, it costs me more. Yes, I carry more gear, but it saves me time on site. And if I could save myself 5 minutes from swapping that gear, then I've saved myself ultimately a lot more time than that. Other thing, I didn't really mention it, is I did kind of touch on it, but make sure you're going in order. That's why it helps to keep people out, because once you go in order, it also makes it much easier in post-production. If you know where all those clips are and everything is in the same order, it makes it easier to delineate where you're putting things. All right, here we go. Next question is, talking about this, the Fine. If you haven't noticed, I'm still using this. I thought I had my Rodecaster Pro fixed, but for some reason, the second I turn or plug in a headphones jack, the whole thing goes haywire and shuts down. So I'm gonna send them an email when I'm done here. Hopefully I'll have that fixed by next time. But yes, we're talking about the Fine mic again. I got a question. How well does it take up audio around? I was talking to someone maybe 5 meters away. Would it take up the audio from that person as well? Luckily, this kit actually comes with 2 different mics, so you would be able to give that person a mic. The problem with these type of mics is they pick up everything. So if I start moving it away from me, even right now, like here, I will put this right here. And I bet even when I pull this back up, there we go. Here we go. Now, when I pull up, you're gonna hear a lot more of the room noise, especially the fan that's going on my light right now. And that's just because these things are designed to be so close. So it does have 2, so you could give that other person the other mic. But if you just wanted to use this one mic, sorry, hold on. Here. That's gotta be better, right? So if you wanted to use this one mic, for that scenario, there are much better options. There's something like this, and this is what I would traditionally use if I needed to capture audio not directly from someone, the Video Micro Pro from Rode. This is what it looks like without all this big dead cat on it. Nice little mic here. Boom, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Very nice for capturing sound from an agent in front of me. Like if I didn't want to wear this, I could easily put this on top of the camera. I would still get a little bit of the room noise, but this greatly reduces that room noise. All right. Last question. Boom, boom. All right, this one actually is not a question, it's a suggestion. So I did a video a while back showing you how to turn daylights into twilights, and I've gotten a lot of questions about how to remove shadows, and this is actually the best solution to that, and I've picked this up from Nathan Cool as well. Now you do have to have a powerful light. My AD200 rarely does the work, though the AD300 Pro, or I think that's what it's called, off the top of my head, it does a much better job. It is more powerful, but the AD200 can do it on smaller jobs when I'm closer to the house. But when you're doing a big house, it doesn't do it so much. So this is a great tip for those of you out there trying to do these daylight twilight conversions and trying to get a better looking final process. Now, when you use editors, there are two types of editors, and I guess this goes back to my price point that I was talking about earlier. Like if you use wegoteditors.com, like I do, those are my editors. Those are the prices I pay. For anyone interested, do you think I pay too much? I don't care. I know I can find cheaper editors. That's not what I care about. I never care about the cost. I pay my creators. I just simply factor that in to my cost of doing business. Either way, I digress. When you use We Got Editors, they have two different styles of editing. They've got the cheap version, then they've got a more expensive version. The cheap Twilight conversion costs a lot less, but they're also not going to do things like remove those shadows that are prevalent on the front of the house that can be very troublesome. But if you go to their advanced, higher end product, oh no, you're now spending even more money. But guess what? They're also removing the shadows from the front of the house, making it look like an actual Twilight, or should I say more like an actual Twilight, for those of you having to deal with harsh shadows. So this is a great recommendation. Thanks so much for throwing it up on here so I could tell everyone else, because I completely forgot about it also. It's been so long since I've made that video. All right, questions, comments, leave them down below, especially if you want a heated debate about prices, because once again, y'all are freaking cheap, man. Don't be so cheap. Just increase your cost to client. Don't negotiate on price. Charge what you're worth. I say it every time. Charge what you're worth, pay what they're worth. Don't be cheap. Comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Use affiliate links, maybe. I don't care. I'll catch you next time. Yeah, next time for sure.